Why is everyone spiraling over YouTube banning ad blockers? Like, chill guys.
Na na na, Diva is a female version of a hustler, of a hustler.
These were the first full CG shots ever completed on 2009's Avatar. They alone took over a year to complete, cause the production tens of millions of dollars, required an army of the most talented and capable 3D artists in Hollywood to achieve, and the result was some of the most realistic and revolutionary digital work the world had ever seen, which catapulted Avatar to becoming a cultural phenomenon that overtook cinema, became the highest grossing film of all time, and set a new precedent for computer-generated characters. And 14 years later, it still holds up, which is why I want to see just how close I can get to recreating this groundbreaking CGI so many years later, and can I do it with nothing more than my gaming PC, Unreal Engine, and the money in my piggy bank. Okay, scratch that. We are actually going to need some money for this. The first thing we need, like always, is a 3D model, but there was only one available for download, and it left a bit to be desired. So I decided to jump into Blender and start sculpting. This first step is about getting the main shapes down and actually serves as a really awesome anatomy study, which is one of the most important things to learn as an artist. Once this base sculpt is done, it's time to add the fine detail so that it doesn't just look like a smooth lump of clay. But realistic skin is one of the hardest things to do in CG, and it has to be correct at the pore level to even begin to look right. And so I've always wondered, how does Hollywood and so many great 3D artists do it, and how do they do it so accurately? Well, after some digging, I found the answer. They cheat. And how to cheat? Well, they'll do it by hand as I've done in the past. Instead, they use 3D scans, because when it comes to photorealism, so I could apply this fine detail later on in ZBrush without having to do it by hand, which saves me a ton of time to spend on more important things, like Avatar LARPing. And after some tweaking and manual work, here is the finished high detail sculpture. I then painted it, modeled the clothing, gave her eyelashes, and then did her hair, which was one of the most tedious parts of this entire video, as I had to place these strands by hand. I modeled her arrow, bought a bow for her because I was tired, and with this we had our finished model of Neytiri. Unfortunately for me, Neytiri cannot just A-pose throughout the entire scene, so I need to give her a skeleton, which is called a rig, so that I'm able to pose her. For the body, I follow the traditional means of just applying a bone per body part, but not with the face. Instead, I had to make what's called a blend shape control rig, which involves sculpting pretty much every facial expression, then applying controls so that I'm able to mix and match. It's actually ironic because this is how facial rigging has been done for decades, except for, and you guessed it, Avatar 2, in which Weta Effects developed a new revolutionary way of rigging faces, which works much more like real anatomy and led to much more realistic results than the old way of doing it. But hey, if the old way is good enough for Thanos, then it's good enough for me. But this rigging is still no good if I don't. Old way is good and led to a new revolution, or, and you guessed it, Avatar 2, in which Weta Effects developed a new revolutionary way of rigging faces, which works much more like real anatomy and led to much more realistic results than the old way of doing it. But hey, if the old way is good enough for Thanos, then it's good enough for me. but this rigging is still no good if I don't give her movement. And I wanted to do it like the big boys over in Hollywood, which is why I went ahead and bought a motion capture suit, which customs did not want to let through. Who knows what they thought it was. But finally it arrived, and after a week of testing, it was now time to capture the performance of a 9-foot tall, sexy, blue alien chick. Unfortunately, even though I am sexy, I am neither blue, nor an alien, nor a chick. Nor am I that tall, which is where my friend Tori comes in, who is definitely